Hi, this is Sarah Hoover, and this workshop is all about child development and how we can support our children to meet their developmental milestones. And give the computer a moment to, there we go. So I work for the Child Care Resource Network, which is a child care resource and referral agency. And we help families by providing free referrals for childcare tailored to the needs of each family. We provide information about childcare options, help families access financial support for childcare. We can connect families to other resources in your community, as well as provide free workshops, such as the one that you are viewing right now. This is the Child Care Resource and Referral Network map. We are the lighter blue color, SDA2. We serve 27 counties. And this is our team of family engagement specialists. I'm the last one, Sarah Hoover. And you can feel free to reach out to me anytime. My email is throughout, I think it's at the beginning and the end of this PowerPoint, but you can email me anytime if you have any questions, or if you want to find out more about childcare, or if you would like more information about the topic today. This session is being recorded. And as I get to that, it looks like we have somebody to join. Hello, Jane. I just got started a few minutes ago. This is just a reminder that the session is being recorded. And if you have any questions or want to share anything, but don't necessarily want it to be part of the recording, I will stop the recording at the end and allow time for that. So welcome. Today we're going to learn about resources to help monitor your child's development and ways to help your child meet those developmental milestones. And since we only have one person on, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to be the only one to share. So I'm going to keep moving, but if you do want to share or ask a question at any time, please just jump in, unmute yourself and jump in, and feel free. So we're just going to start with just a little bit of information about brain development. 90% of a child's brain development happens before the age of 5. I will say that doesn't mean that after the age of 5, your brain only develops another 10%. Our brains are always changing because of neuroplasticity. So we are always learning and growing. But really that framework and that foundation for all learning and growth happens before the age of 5. And that's significant when you think about the age that children reach school. So if there are any concerns, developmental concerns, or behavior issues, or disabilities, if they aren't addressed until the child enters school, which is the typical time in the state of Indiana, a lot of time is really lost in supporting children with developmental supports or behavioral supports while their brain is still in that really high development stage. And every child has a unique path. So we're going to talk about typical developmental milestones around how children play, learn, speak, behave, and move. And these are typical windows of development that most children follow, although each child is very different. So when we talk about developmental milestones, these are typical things that most children can do at a certain age. Examples are like smiling for the first time, taking first steps, waving bye-bye. And we see these milestones every day when we're playing, talking, and interacting with children. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, every child is different and all children develop at their own pace. And some will reach milestones slightly late, slightly early. Some children, a lot of children may reach milestones in some areas early, but then fall a bit late for others. And so really having a good understanding of where our children are is helpful. And that's why tracking our child's development can really give us insight into where children are excelling and then those areas where they might need additional support. So I wanted to bring this up. This is for children. These resources are for children up to age 5. I am going to talk about children a little bit older than that, a little bit further on in this presentation. But these are really awesome free resources for all parents. All of this is also online. If you're not a kind of paper in your hand type of person. But if you go to, you can either just Google the CDC's Act Early, Learn the Signs Act Early, or Milestone Moments, or Indiana has, we have our own website with additional developmental resources. The cool thing about these, there is an app that you can download onto your phone that looks very similar to those little booklets there that say Milestone Moments on them. But they go through a typical development of a child from 2 months old to 5 years of age, and through the different domains of learning and growth. And at each age, there's information similar to the information sheet. So this one is 2 months, so your baby at 2 months. And there's a section about what most babies do at this age, maybe what some red flags are if you're seeing some things that don't seem quite right, and then how to talk to your child's doctor. And then so I think some of the best parts are ways to help your child meet those milestones. There's growth charts with child development information embedded into it. And then there's children's books. This is one for 2-year-olds. They have 1-year-old books, 2-year-old books, and 3-year-old books that are really fun for children, but also have some really great child development information embedded into it. And tracking these milestones, it helps understand your child's developmental progress, identifies moments to really celebrate with your child when they reach a milestone, and you see new growth, and help determine if your child might need some extra support with a certain skill. So I'm going to go through, I'm not going to read these word for word, but this is just a nice summary of, I think I pulled out 2 milestones for each of the age groups just to give you an idea. And it's always helpful for me to go back and review these. I wish I had these resources when my children were younger. They're quite a bit older. But just it's kind of fun to kind of go back and look at the development from babies on up to age 5. So at 2 months, and one other thing I want to mention really quickly, if you're looking at a particular age that your child is, and the things that most children that age do, if there are certain things that your child is not doing, that's not in itself cause for alarm at all, because like we said, every child has a unique path, and they do develop at different rates. The times to maybe take notice and maybe do a little more investigating is when you see a pattern of multiple multiple domains or multiple areas that your child may be falling behind. But not every child is going to do every single one of these. This is just kind of like a framework of what most children do. So social and emotional, that's the first domain that the milestone moments covers. Babies begin to smile at people, and they are learning to briefly calm themselves, such as bringing their hands to their mouth and sucking on their hand. They're starting to coo, make gurgling sounds. They'll turn their head towards sounds. That's part of language and communication. And then as far as cognitive development, which is really that intellectual development, the learning, thinking, and problem solving, they'll pay attention to faces, and they'll begin to follow things with their eyes. And then that movement and physical development, at 2 months, they can hold their head up, and they begin to push up when lying on their tummy, and they start to make smoother movements with their arms and legs. By 4 months, there's more smilings, smiling spontaneously, and they're starting to copy some movements and facial expressions, like smiling or frowning. They're starting to babble and copy sounds that they hear, and their cries will sound a bit different, and as they show hunger, pain, or being tired. Babies at 4 months are starting to be able to let you know if they're feeling happy or sad. And they're beginning to use their hands and eyes together. So seeing a toy and then reaching for it. At 4 months, they can hold their head steady, unsupported, push down on their legs when feet are on a hard surface, and may begin to roll over from tummy to back. At 6 months, they're becoming more aware of familiar faces, and aware of strangers, and they start to respond to other people's emotions. And a lot of babies at 6 months are pretty often they seem happy. They're stringing vowels together, and they also begin to say consonant sounds. They're bringing things to their mouth. And they're beginning to pass things from one hand to the other. I remember I was excited the first time I saw my first child pass something from one hand to the other. I'm like, hey, he's doing it. At 6 months, most babies can roll over in both directions, and they're beginning to sit without support. At 9 months, this is really when that separation anxiety kicks in. They're maybe clingy with familiar adults, especially mom and dad. They're going to have more of that fear of strangers. They're making more sounds, including mama or dada, baba, using fingers to point. They're watching the path of something as it falls. They're realizing that the movement of objects. They can play peekaboo. They're starting to stand, holding on to something, pulling to stand, and some begin to crawl. At 12 months, they're still typically shy or nervous with strangers, crying when mom or dad leaves. They can respond to simple requests, and they can use simple gestures such as no or waving. They really enjoy exploring things in different ways, like shaking, banging, throwing. They can follow simple directions. They may begin walking while holding onto furniture and may start taking a few steps. 18 months, they're starting to move into those terrible twos. So they may have temper tantrums. This is also a really fun stage as they start to play pretend, such as feeding a doll. By this age, they can say several words, and typically they can say as well as gesture, so say and shake their head no. They're learning body parts, they're beginning to scribble. on their own. They can walk alone and drink from a cup. And again, these are I just pulled a couple from each section. There's a lot more that you can look at. These are just brief examples. At 2 years, they're showing more and more independence. And this is really when some of that defiant behavior begins to rear its head. They can point to things or pictures when they're named, and they're starting to say sentences with 2 to 4 words. This is also a time when they can start to sort shapes and colors, and build towers of 4 or more blocks. They can kick a ball and walk up and down stairs. At 3 years, some of those social skills really start emerging. They can take turns in games, and they begin to show concern for a crying friend. They notice emotions on others. They can follow instructions with 2 or 3 steps and can name a lot of familiar things. Oh, I have this repeated. I apologize for that. And at 4 years, this is when friends start to become very important. Most children prefer to play with other children rather than by themselves, and they're learning to cooperate with other children. They begin to sing a song or say a poem from memory and tell stories. They can name some colors and some numbers. They can tell you what they think is going to happen next in a book. This is a really great time to talk to your child when you're reading them stories. Talk to them about the pictures and about what they're seeing and about what they think is going to happen next. They can also hop and stand on one foot and are developing more of those fine motor skills. Then they can pour, they can cut, and they can mash their own food. And then 5 years, singing, dancing, and acting. 5-year-olds are often can kind of go back and forth between being very demanding and sometimes very cooperative. 5-year-olds can tell a simple story using full sentences. They can say their name and their address, counts to 10 or more things, and can start printing some letters or numbers, especially their name. 5-year-olds can hop, some can skip, and use the toilet on their own. So here's 2 websites where you can get a lot more information about each of these age ranges. And you can also locate those free resources that I had on the earlier slide. And if anybody viewing this ever wants to have the actual links, please feel free to email me at any time, and I will send you this PowerPoint so that you can click on the links directly. And one of the significant aspects of those materials is, as you monitor your child's development, if you see a pattern of some things that you feel like your child is possibly not meeting, or there's some red flags, the best time to act is now. The earlier that your child gets some support, the earlier in their brain development, the better they will, the more prepared they'll enter school, and the better they will be able to overcome those challenges. And then I went ahead because I know, while these resources are primarily up to the age of 5, there is still really great information on the CDC website about middle childhood, early teens, and then teenagers. This information includes some of those milestones, as well as parenting tips, which I know the older children get, sometimes those parenting tips become invaluable. So I'm not going to dive into those too deeply, but I wanted to provide some for those of you that have children over the age of 5, and also let you know that there's really great, that the CDC does have really great resources for you as well. So middle childhood, from 6 to 8 years is really that a time of independence, because at this point the children have started school, they're spending more time with their peers, friendships become more and more important. And so those physical, social, and mental skills develop very quickly at this time. And this is a really important time for these children to develop confidence in all areas of life, as they're in being more and more in contact with the regular world, the larger world. And then 9 to 11 years, again, healthy friendships are very important to your child's development. This is also an age when peer pressure can become impactful in children's lives, and children who feel good about themselves. Like you mentioned the, children building confidence in the previous slide. Children who feel good about themselves are more able to resist that negative peer pressure and to make better choices. This is an important time for children to gain a sense of responsibility as they're growing in their independence. And then especially for girls, this is a time when puberty starts to show up. And then another big change is starting middle school or junior high school. And these links at the bottom, again, if you're interested in me sending the PowerPoint to you, please feel free to email me. These links have a lot more information about this age group specifically. And then the young teens. So this is.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Melissa.
Hi.
But where do we email you at to get a copy of the PowerPoint?
I will just tell you, it's S as in Sarah, and then Hoover, HOOVER, at, and this is long, it's the Child Care Resource Network.org. And Jane, I have your email because you registered, so I will just go ahead and send it to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
So you don't need to, but thank you for asking that question, and that will hopefully be helpful for anybody else that's viewing this video later.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, this is the 12 to 14 years. Those are some rough years, especially for girls. At least that's what I found with my children. That physical, mental, emotional, and social changes. There's just so many changes going on. The hormones are happening as puberty begins. The peer pressure might intensify, other challenges, such as eating disorders, depression. There's just a lot of challenges and changes during this age range. Teens tend to make more of their own choices about friends, sports, studying, and school as they're becoming more independent, although parents are still very important. So how can I help my child grow and develop? So there's lots of parenting guidance and advice out there. The CDC, I'm taking this information from the CDC just because I'm following the developmental information that they have provided. And they have such a user-friendly website that's just has great information, and it's easy to access. And their positive parenting practices that they've outlined that I'm going to share really work for any age of child, across diverse families and in diverse settings. So we're just going to go through some of those. So responding to children in a predictable way. So children know what to expect. showing warmth and sensitivity. That doesn't mean, not addressing challenging behaviors, but having that warmth and caring and nurturing where your child knows that they can come to you is very important. Even for teenagers, even though it might become more challenging. Having routines and household rules. And again, some of that comes back to that predictability, where children know what the expectations are, they know what their responsibilities are, and they know what to expect next. Sharing books with children. This is such a big one for every age. Even teenagers, you might not necessarily read to your middle aged child or teenage child, but even just talking about what they're reading and what they're interested in. There's lots of different ways to engage with any age of child involving books. Supporting health and safety. Using appropriate discipline without harshness. And if you've been to any of my other workshops, this one of the things I love about conscious discipline is we are always guiding our children, but trying to do so in a way that is teaching and guiding rather than punishing, and without that harshness. And there's a lot more, and this is another link, additional parenting tips and activities specific to your child's age can be found here. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you so much. This was very helpful.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You.
Yeah, you're
Have a
welcome.
great afternoon.
You too. Thank you. Bye. All right, now my computer has frozen. Oh, here we go. So yes, like I mentioned, here's my email again. It's the S Hoover. It also looks like Shuver, at the childcareresourcenetwork.org. This is a phone number that you can call or text our agency, and feel free to reach out if you would like additional information or if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint with all those links in it. I hope that you have a really great day. Bye.